Welcome back to the next episode of Inside of Her C-Suite. I'm Timothy Maurice, and today we have an exciting episode of a young woman who is shaking things up in both the property space and the investment space. Her name is Lynette Ntuli. Let's do it. Hi, Lynette.
How are you, Tim?
Good. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to have you here.
Welcome to Inside of Her C-Suite. Thank you for allowing me inside of your C-Suite.
Thank you very much, and welcome.
There are a lot of exciting things happening in your career right now, and I'm excited because we got a young, innovative voice in this sort of C-suite space.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about where you are right now in your mindset.
Well, I think these are my consolidation years, Tim. My 20s, I worked myself to the bone to get to this point. So when I look at some of the things that are happening in my business, some of the opportunities and even the projects that I'm opening myself up to now, they're very much things and ideas that I've been working on for a very long time. And it's fantastic to just finally be here and actually be part of them, doing them, watching them grow, and obviously just watching how not only I, but the rest of the world responds to some of the stuff that we're putting out into the space.
Let's go back. You are a young, humble girl from Durban, born and bred there?
Yes, I was in Umlazi, in fact, south of Durban.
I know that your family and your mom had a huge influence on your life. Tell us how your mom helped sort of shape you as a woman.
I think my mother was before her time. And I say that because very much unlike her peers who were married by their 20th birthdays, had a family and a full family by their 30th, my mother started all of that a lot later in her life. But she's had a full experience of life. She traveled the world. She went to university and went all the way through master's levels at different universities around the world, worked, lived, played, I suppose, around the world. And I think when you grow up with that example in your life, it makes you limitless because you realize that irrespective of the circumstances around you, you can actually break past them and live the life of your dreams if you're willing to do a little bit of work, if you're willing to climb out of your comfort zone, and you're also willing to take a few unprecedented risks.
You sort of straddle these spaces of being sort of a public voice for social justice issues around women's empowerment and an investment sort of entrepreneur. Tell us which one you're most passionate about.
Sure. I'm very passionate about being an investment entrepreneur in the property space because it enables me to be a voice for young people, for women, and all the type of communities that go on to live, work, and play in the spaces I'm able to create. You know, property in our country, as you know, is a very, very emotive and very divisive topic and space. But being an entrepreneur in this space, particularly in 2017, means we create solutions to a lot of the spatial inequalities and transformation issues that exist in our country, but also we can create fresh spaces for people to actualize themselves into. And the people who are the future that's going to actualize themselves into the spaces are youth, are women. So it's incredibly important for me to know what they're thinking, to know what they need, to speak up for them so that they actually can access these spaces, these resources, this infrastructure, and this world we're really creating, whether it's through property or technology or innovation. So I'm passionate about the one because I know that it lays such a strong foundation and it enables me to really be a credible voice in the spaces I speak into, because I know that the future I'm building, whether it's in my business or as an individual and as a brand, is able to bring those people with me.
You've allowed us into a space where you serve on a board. We're here in a division of Stanley. We're going to go in now. You're going to tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I will.
All right, let's do it. Let's go through. You've been able to develop a leading voice to such that you're sought after to sit on boards, to create spaces where you are able to influence what happens from an investment decision. Why choose Stanley as one of those spaces?
Well, they chose me, should I rather say, and it's an exciting time for this particular business and what they are developing as a REIT, a recently listed REIT in South Africa and in the property space. And I guess in creating the board that would advise on various issues and help with the decision making that's taking them into this exciting future, they were looking for some diversity in terms of the voices that sat on that board.
What type of decisions?
Well, investment decisions. This is very much a growing business. It's a new business, but it's a growing one and a fast-growing one in an exciting space. You know, the retail property space in South Africa, certainly right up there with the rest of the world, and a space that needs innovation and that needs creative new ideas, that's growing in new places and in markets. So we're here to contribute to those type of decisions about where should we be, where is this business going, who should we be taking with, you know, what else comes into this particular stable. So that's the exciting part of the work.
I'm curious. You know, you are young, you are a small frame. Are there ever moments you're sitting at the board table and you feel like I need a strategy to get my voice across? Or have you just kind of mastered this already?
Different spaces require different things in us. There are spaces where you've got to immediately be a voice to mark your presence and your position in a specific room. But there are also spaces that I'm very acutely aware that when I enter them, I'm there to learn, I'm there to participate, I'm there to create value either from the front or in support to somebody in that particular space. So when I walk into spaces, before I use the voice, I always am far more aware of my presence and my position in the space first, and I determine at what level that voice should then pitch in, and then what I'm there to bring in the room first. So I'm almost learning to almost be a voice at the back first before projecting a voice and making sure that then I'm contributing quality and incisive thoughts and insights into the conversation.
Patriarchy can be brutal, and the biases and the nonsense. I've had, you know, in our research for this show, I've had women CEOs say that men have asked them to make tea. Have you had those moments, and how did you deal with them?
Plenty of those moments. You know, one of the stories I was recently telling to someone was in this particular space where one is fairly young, you're a woman, you're black. You know, we often walk into boardrooms where many of the people around that boardroom, their only interaction in the world with a young black woman may have been in their home with their domestic worker. And now you're sitting perhaps in a decision maker seat, you're potentially the client, you're perhaps the one who signs the checks in that particular room. So the whole dynamic and the context of that relationship can really throw either party off, dependent on how it's approached and how you manage that initial interaction in that room. So what I'm finding is, you know, when those things happen, and they do happen, I'm now starting to say, it's not that this necessarily that this particular person has a specific bias or prejudice against me, but their lived experience means they've never experienced me. And I now have a big role in walking into specific spaces and immediately disarming that sets us apart in those spaces and getting people to know me in the form that I'm in the room for and for the reason that I'm in the room for.
If you look at the last decade, it's not been easy. You know, economic complexity. Has there been a moment when you wanted to give up?
No. Oh no. I thrive on complexity. I thrive on a good challenge. I thrive on the ability to turn something from a problem to a solution.
Give me one moment where there was a problem where some people may have given up, but you turned it into a solution.
Sure. When I look back on sort of the life of our business, there's always a problem. There's a client who decides to can a project midway, or there's funding that for whatever reason is frozen and you've already started up capacitating the business, you've started on the work related to the project and it has to stop for financial reasons. And I mean, those are two things that have happened, and they've happened and time again. But when that sort of happens, then it's important to start saying, this is not about you, don't take it personally, but let's get to a solution that saves people, that makes sure that nobody's harmed in the middle of the crisis, but also make sure that we come out to fight another day and make sure that you save your own sanity out of those crisis moments that can absolutely drive you to a point where you say, this is not for me, I'm throwing in the can and the towel and I'm out of here. Because those moments are also character building. They help you to be really introspective, and if you take a moment to watch the storm will also teach you a few things that the next time you'll do differently.
I want you to think about 2 or 3 things that you would share with a young woman. You know, young women are watching this show, young professional women are watching this show. I want you to take a moment. We're going to go inside of a boardroom. I want to create the space for you to share a couple insights that you've learned that you think they should know. Can we do that?
We can. Thank you.
Awesome. For the young women that are listening, even men, I find a lot of men are watching this show as well. For the young people listening, give us a couple things that they need to know if they want to globe trot and represent their country really well.
Do not be afraid, I think, is the first thing. Often we limit ourselves in our own minds about our potential and the possibility of the things that we can do. So firstly, for me, it's do not be afraid. I also always say this to myself. I don't pray to a God of a single opportunity. So if one thing doesn't work out, do not let that be an end, but let that be a springboard to the next thing. And that applies to both success and failure, mind you. I think sometimes when we succeed, we want to dwell on it, but then sometimes we'll dwell on the success and the triumph too long, instead of getting on to the next success and triumph. And similarly, if you fail, you've got to fail, you've got to feel it, but you've also got to get up quickly and keep moving on. The third thing for me is set up strategies around and around your goals and your plans. It's not enough to wish for things, but you've also got to work for things. But in working for things, there's a real opportunity for you to put yourself under some form of pressure, whether it's placing a time, placing a place, placing the type of resources, people, and infrastructure that you need to get those things going, so that you feel like even while you're in that moment when you're waiting for the thing to pop, you're not standing and waiting, but you're moving towards it all at the same time. And the fourth thing I'd like to share is don't be afraid of the necessary evolution that will come as part of a growing career or a growing business, or even you as an individual as you grow, either as a leader and in different spaces. And that evolution means you've got to consistently be aware of what's going on around you and always finding ways to integrate activities and projects and opportunities that complement who you are as a person, your values, and bring them into your space. I think we live in such an exciting time, and there's enough time and there's enough space for us to be in different spaces at the same time. Obviously, don't overkill it, because then you spread the brand too thin, you spread yourself too thin, and the message about who you are and what it is that you aim to achieve can completely disappear in the oblivion of that too much. But I think if you want to achieve different things and try out different things in different spaces, you've also got to allow yourself the opportunity as well as the space to evolve. And as the evolution happens, bring it in to complement the things that you want to achieve, as well as who you are ultimately as an individual. That's incredibly important for me.
Speaking of amazing, Lynette Ntuli, thank you for joining us in this episode.
It was an absolute pleasure, Tim.
Join us next week as we continue exploring brilliant minds like Lynette to see who and what's happening on this continent as the next generation is being shaped. I'm Timothy Maurice.